Folks, thanks a lot for the 60,000 subscribers. You guys are awesome. But we're not stopping here. Let's push it, folks, to 100,000 subscribers. So give that support to the channel and subscribe and hit that like button down below to reach our goal of 150 likes. And now let's go for it. The story kicks off with this intense rain just pouring down, covering the deserted streets of a city. There's this young lad making his way across the barrier of a bridge. After a quick internal ponder, he just hurls himself into what seems like the end, death and all. But just when he's about to have that split-second regret, bam! A vampire pops out of nowhere and swoops in to stop the fall, telling the kid to hold back the tears, because his blood's gonna taste even worse if he cries. Next thing you know, the vampire's sinking his teeth into the poor lad's neck for a quick snack. Now in some distant, unknown world in this massive castle, there are a few voices pondering on who the next big shot lord is gonna be. One voice is all in for this big shot ruse. Then this old crone calls for quiet and spills the beans that the next vampire lord's gotta be someone with some real kick-ass powers. But get this, only a perfect vampire, one who's found his destined partner and turned her into a vampire, is worthy of the throne. So the vamps around are scratching their heads, wondering who fits the bill. And there's this one dude, seems real keen on the destined partner part. Back in the human realm, there's Yamamoto Mito. Just got the boot from this ramen joint called Man's Generation, because the boss found out he's been crashing there overnight. Mito's going on about not having a dime to his name for a proper place, so he's asking for some time to sort it out. But the boss ain't having it, saying customers have been griping because there are so many gals coming in to see him that the guys won't even set foot in the joint anymore. So he hands Mito his stuff and declares it's the end of the line. But hey, as a silver lining, the guy throws in that a looker like Mito won't have trouble snagging another gig. So there's Mito, walking the streets, feeling low because he's lost yet another job, this time without even getting paid. He knows it's on him, but that doesn't stop the gloom. Then this group of school gals walks by, chirping about his looks. Mito turns around, trying to figure out what's up, and these gals are practically losing their minds because they got a glance from the handsome dude. But Mito's got bigger fish to fry, like a measly 12 yen in his wallet, meaning another night camped out on the sidewalk. So he's reaching out to his folks up in heaven for help, reflecting on how he's needed it ever since his folks kicked the bucket. Cop asked him once if he remembered anything from the fire that took him, but his mind was a blank. After that day, all that mattered was buried in the rubble of his home. For the longest time, he bounced around from relative to relative, feeling like a burden wherever he went. Then one day, he got the boot after a relative took care of his compulsory education. So from then on, Mito was on his own. According to her, a pretty face like his wouldn't have a rough time on the streets. So the kid's been desperate for work, but he either gets the boot from manual labor gigs because he's not as burly as the rest or runs into the brick wall of unemployment keeping him on the streets. So now, all Mito's got left is to cross that bridge and try his luck on the other side of town. Meanwhile, over at La Fray's restaurant, meaning Strawberry in French, there's this handsome and charming waiter living up to the name of the joint, serving up tasty dishes and visually stunning plates to a crowd of women swooning over both his looks and the strawberries meticulously laid out. After tending to his customers, this waiter notices the rain just starting. Outside, Mito's out there on the prowl for any chance to shake off unemployment. Once the rain starts, he sees folks popping up their umbrellas or kids his age calling for their moms to pick him up. But Mito's got only himself and his backpack, using it to try and dodge the rain while making a dash for some cover. Finally, he makes it under the awning of La Fray's, but his little backpack didn't stop his clothes from getting soaked, and all that running made his body realize it hasn't had a decent meal in ages. So Mito staggers and falls right into the restaurant, accidentally knocking over a potted plant. Embarrassed, he starts cleaning up right away, and to top it off, he cuts his finger on a clay shard. That's when a La Fray's employee comes over to tend to him. Noticing the bleeding, he takes Mito to fix up his wound in the back. Mito's thinking it's no big deal, this injury, but the waiter shows his true colors by licking the kid's wound. But man, it tastes so foul, like sewer-level bad, that Mito can't help but cry and gag in disgust. According to the waiter, Mito's blood is thick, sticky, and tastes like meat that's gone bad and sat in the sink for a week. The kid's like, "What's your deal, man? You're the one who started licking my finger." But the waiter's like, "Hey, your blood looked good. Got curious." With that said, Mito realizes this dude's doing some vampire stuff, but of course he ain't buying it. So the waiter kicks the kid with the rancid blood out of the restaurant, and Mito's out of there, tripping on the bizarre behavior of that guy. In the back of La Fray's, the waiter gets approached by another dude asking how the tasting went, seeing as it's been 10 years since he's had any human blood. The waiter's like, "How'd you get here, Komori?" And he's like, "It's my duty as a butler." So the waiter's saying the taste was awful and human blood just ain't it. But Komori thinks the bad taste is because the victim ain't loved by nobody, cause apparently The amount of love a human receives and gives back determines the flavor of their blood, which can be as sweet as a strawberry. Obviously, female blood's better, but a loved-up man's can be just as sweet. So finally, Komori asks Ruka what he thinks about taking care of the kid till he reaches that sweetness level, because even though Ruka's been off human blood for 10 years, it's clear he wanted to sink his teeth into that young guy. However, Ruka responds that he prefers to stick with his strawberry juice if blood tastes that horrible anyway, and tells Komori to stop trying to give orders around there. At that moment, Komori remembers that he is the founder, and putting the waiter in his place, he informs that in his homeland, many are questioning Ruka's ability to take his place as leader. According to the founder, this is because Ruka has forgotten the purpose of being in the human world, and this is causing a commotion in the conclave. Therefore, to become a perfect vampire and take Komori's place, Ruka must fulfill the duty assigned to him. At this moment, another waiter asks Ruka for help because the restaurant is very busy, and before he leaves, Komori asks the vampire to remember why he's here. After an exhausting shift, Ruka asks his colleague to pass him some strawberry juice because the bad taste in his mouth is sinister. The colleague asks if he ate some junk, and Ruka replies that it was thick, bitter, and icy junk. Having said that, he recalls the founder's theory about the lack of love in the victim, while the other waiter asks what he's talking about. Ruka tells him to forget it and reflects that the young man must be very lonely to not have anyone's love. Speaking of him, Minnow runs like crazy to protect himself from the rain, but a motorcycle passes by quickly and splashes water on the boy. With this added annoyance, Minnow thinks about how lucky he is and gives up avoiding the rain altogether. A little further ahead, he crosses the bridge back to the other side of the city, but he knows that wherever he goes, he has nowhere to go in the end. In Midow's mind, this is a clear sign that nobody will miss him if he happens to leave this world, and in his longing for affection, he plans to throw himself in the hope that anyone, will mourn his death. However, he gives up the idea and believes that tomorrow he might find a job, but ends up slipping and falling off the bridge altogether. Then, after Ruka saves his life, the vampire asks how he is, and Mido wonders when was the last time someone asked him that. Ironically, even in the face of the circumstances, Mido feels happy and welcomed, so Ruka finally bites the boy's neck and licks the blood that was dripping. After that, Ruka throws Mido unceremoniously onto the fence and says that his blood is horrible, but it'll do. Then he wants to know if the boy wanted to take his own life on that bridge, and Mido says that nobody needs him. In that case, the vampire suggests that Mido become his source of food because that way he will be needed. Aware of the proposal, Mido gradually accepts that he is in the presence of a vampire, undead beings that suck the blood of their victims, but soon the boy faints from everything he experienced that day. During this time, a dream of a vampire that takes him to the skies and feeds on his blood invades the boy's mind, who is then awakened by a cat and a bat flying above his bed. Seeing the boy wake up, Ruka informs him that they are in the boy's dormitory of Hijiragoka School for Boys where he lives and studies. Finally, he asks the boy to take a shower so he doesn't get sick, and after that, he can go home. Mido asks about that story about being a food source, but Ruka replies that he was just kidding because he may be thirsty, but he prefers not to suck the blood of a scared kid. However, Mido understands the warmth he felt as a reason to surrender to the vampire, but as soon as he affirms that he wants to become a vampire's meal, Ruka throws him into the bathroom and tells the emotional boy to take a quick shower to get out of there. Mido says he has nowhere else to go afterwards, and Ruka replies that it makes sense for the boy's blood to be bad because nobody really loves him. Mido asks what he can do to improve his blood, and the vampire reveals that for that, the boy needs to learn to be loved by him. Upon hearing these words, Mido becomes emotional and remembers every moment when Ruka spoke about needing him, seeing in it the possibility of receiving the love he never had before. So he agrees to be loved for his blood to become less bitter and become a food source. Having said that, the vampire opens the door and introduces himself as Sotone Ruka, promising to love Mido every day, but the boy feels embarrassed and locks him out to take a shower. Ruka says that from now on, the two will live together there, and Mido makes it clear that he's not doing it just to have somewhere to stay. Then the boy questions if he's doing the right thing while he changes clothes and outside. Ruka reveals that Mido saved his life because he never managed to suck the blood of women, so he always looked for a handsome boy for himself. However, while listening to those words, Mido reveals his true identity and wonders what will become of her now. Hey folks, we're kicking off the new anime season, and if you enjoyed this anime and want to see more of it, go ahead and hit that like button down below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We need your support to reach our goal of 70,000 subscribers. Every subscription counts and helps us grow our community. Catch you next time.